Michael, Michelle, good afternoon. Nice to see you both. Thank you for joining me. Purpose of this is quite simply to have a conversation around reflecting on the Actif4 Leadership Programme and a few very related leadership issues and challenges that all three of us have encountered in recent years. I mean, the context of this is quite simply that it's a good while ago that the three of us will first have met. Michael, it's 3 years since you completed the programme, I think, this autumn. Michelle, over a year since you did. So I guess we're looking a little bit back into the past here, but with good reason. The purpose of all that is to understand a little bit more down the line where things have moved to for each of you, in terms of change, applying some learning, experiences. So this is the product of reflective thinking and action since a 9-month programme that you were on a while ago, and in your case, Michael, quite a long while ago. And so it's really just a discussion, and we'll reflect on how things are going. I'll do the same because it's a few years since I kicked all of this off, and we learn along the way. And the whole point of doing this is so that we can feed in that learning to the future, not just for the two of you, I hope it can do for the two of you, but also for other people that encounter programmes like this with us from now on, at North Star Shipping or anywhere else. So that's the context. Well, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. Me, I'm Ian Gourley, founder of Actif4, co-founder of Actif4 anyway. Been here since the start and had the joy of taking both of you through our programme in recent years, and some of your colleagues, which is always interesting because you get people from the same company, but of course the people are different, and that's one of the things that makes what I do and what my colleagues do so interesting. So that's me. Michelle, over to you.
Hello, I'm Michelle Fowler. I am the Group QHSE Manager for North Star. So I have been with North Star nearly 4 years now, with quite a diverse QHSE department. That's growing. Currently I have 9 in the QHSE department across various locations as well.
A growing department, eh?
Yes.
Growing responsibilities. Thanks very much. Michael,
the Group Commercial Director for North Star. A little longer than Michelle. I've been with North Star for 13 years since a graduate and worked a variety of different roles, and I'm now the Commercial Director for the business, so working with all departments, including Michelle and her team, to kind of deliver growth, business change, both in collaboration with the teams that we have, but also with external stakeholders, including our shareholders.
do you know a common thing, and thank you for that, Michael, is the word growth. Both of you are involved in growth, a growing business obviously, growth of teams, growth of challenges, and the context of all of this is in this case leadership. So actually let's go off onto that for a moment. When you're involved in a growing business and you're in a leadership position like both of you are, you come across quite a lot of challenges that relate to change. I was just reflecting on that the other day about how so often we have people in growth situations who nevertheless find change difficult. Well, it's people like yourselves who are there to help make that change happen. What do you encounter in terms of challenges when it comes to helping people to grow the business? Because it still involves change.
A lot of the time it's taking everyone with you on the journey, communication, understanding and being open about what is happening, also taking on board everyone's suggestions, concerns as well, but from a leadership perspective, it's how you change that so that they can see the end goal, because people do genuinely get concerned about change, for various reasons. How is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect my job? Is anything going to change? And I think once people know and understand, that's when you get everyone on board with you, and it makes the change easier.
How people get to know and understand, that's not the job of 2 minutes, is it? That's quite a period of time you've just described there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Michelle. What do you think, Michael?
quite, you always think we planned this, kind of leads in quite well to kind of how we try to approach it in terms of anchoring. So change always involves sometimes quite a lot of corporate language, very specific details. The way that we try and do that in kind of the business side that I'm involved in is about creating tangible anchor points, so people really kind of delve into the reason why the change is there and why we need to do the change. So really try and take it back to a human level, because you want to try and get that initial buy-in, as Michelle said, take people with you and ultimately get them motivated about it. Mm-hmm. And if they understand the reasons why change is required, sometimes that, in my experience, creates positivity, and positivity creates motivation to try and make it happen. Because if people aren't positive and motivated to make change happen, then they're not going to help. They're probably going to just be bystanders instead of actively kind of helping everyone else on the journey.
Yeah, and what a difference between bystanders and people who are active. I mean, this is one of the things that we, in our programme, try to bring out. If you're in a leadership position, maybe you can be a bystander some of the time, but that's not what a leader should be doing. It's getting active and helping others to become active, because if you're the only person that's active, it's probably not enough, but you certainly can't afford to be a bystander yourself. So how true. Interesting to hear you say that, Michael. Some of that comes with difficulty though, and I guess the challenges of getting people to go from being a bystander to getting active, that's not automatic, and you get people pushing back on change, saying, why should I be part of that? I don't know that I want to be part of that. How do you get around that? Because I think Michelle was talking about what sounds like an ongoing building of understanding, but any thoughts on that?
I think very much there's a difference between managing the situation and leading the situation. Managing it is just a process. As in, right, this is what we've got to do, this is the job that we have to do. Leading it is completely different in itself. You have to open up people's eyes to it, and yes, you get pushback, and some of that can be positive pushback as well. So as part of the leadership side, and making any changes, it's about recognising that. And whilst we've got an end goal there, we might say, well, actually, this person has a point in it, but we need to change track to get to that end goal. Then everyone becomes involved in it, and people do talk as such. So you get your first followers, your champions on board, that certainly makes the world a difference. And before you know that, one person's leading on to the next person. Before you know it, everyone's involved. With everything, there'll always be challenges. It's how you overcome them at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper with that one, this difference between managing and leading. I mean, we looked at that in some depth in our programme, I guess. Let's see if there's anything that you can look back on from the days on the leadership programme to see where it helped you go from this management to leadership perspective.
Being in the moment, very much for me as a manager, as a leader of many people and interlinking with the other companies. Sometimes it's easier to say, right, we've got a job to do, let's just get it done. And sometimes it's just taking that step back and saying, right, okay, what do we need? And sometimes it's actually just taking people through the steps, making clear visions as to where we're going with it, so that there's no confusion with it as well. But there is a huge difference between managing and leading. And the course definitely taught me that. My own time as well can sometimes be precious. How I present myself to the staff as well, being positive in a lot of things as well, rather than right, go, we've got a mission, and sometimes it is just taking that step back and saying, right, we've got this, but how are we going to do it collectively? So that was my difference between managing and leading.
Beautifully summed up. What do you think, Michael?
I think you have to have a balanced approach. Leading, particularly as you kind of grow a business a bit organically, sometimes takes a bit of managing as well. I think it comes down to, in my opinion, active leadership is kind of really one of the necessities of today's kind of modern business. You can't expect change to happen if you don't get involved in it yourself.
Yeah.
So you need to be there to really get involved in it, be active, and then it just comes to understanding your team. It's not just a case of go and create change, it's about understanding kind of what drives them and helps them thrive, to really help everyone buy into it. And that's kind of the real difference of managing, as Michelle said, is a bit more of, okay, let's get it done. Whilst leadership is a bit more of, well, what motivations can we tap into here to create buy-in, to help people to problem solve? Because you can't be there and do everything. You can guide, you can help, but you really need to try and create that curiosity that I think we all have as leaders. You want to always be curious, but you want to try and tap that curiosity with the rest of the team. And how you do that, I think, is by being a bit more active and sharing maybe some of the life lessons, the perceptions, the learnings that you've had in previous careers, roles, whatever it might be, to try and show that it's not just from a textbook, it's how it's been translated from experience into new situations can sometimes help. I think that was actually one of the strengths of the programme as well, was that you do manage to learn from a lot of different people's experiences through engaging with people in different industries. So you be able to speak to people that work in different continents and different industries. That curiosity to learn from each other goes from the same in a leadership programme is to your teams and internally throughout the whole business. Michelle and her team have a completely different world that my team and I don't tend to live in, but we can all learn loads from each other, but we just have to make sure that we stay curious.
Yeah, I love that. Stay curious, because from curiosity you can spark something. If you have no curiosity, the spark goes out, or it doesn't happen, the flame goes out. Keep the flame burning. Quite a lot of what you're describing there is around mood and feelings and emotions, and these are the things that maybe in management people can dismiss as touchy-feely, and yet maybe that's one of the differences between management and leadership, is actually the really good leader is one who manages to bring the soft edge of moods and emotions into the hard edge of business reality and results and measurement and delivery. The two fit together. They don't just exist in separate places. But I think the art of bringing yourself into leadership includes tapping into not just people's moods, but your own, checking it, making sure that it's appropriate for the moment that you're in. Going back to what you said earlier on, Michelle, being in the moment. And part of being in the moment is checking that you're in the right mood for that moment, and maybe making some adjustments before you then go on to the situation that you may find with your team or your client or your colleagues. What mood are they in? Is that mood conducive towards what we're trying to do, or is it completely contradictory? And I know that both of you, have been quite heavily involved in looking at that side of things. Mood and emotion. I mean, you're in a growing business. It's quite exciting, but it's very pressurized. Where do you find that mood and emotion has a role to play in the leadership challenges that you have met and are meeting?
I think it's self-awareness more than everything, you know, and there is,
you want to go first?
And I've said it many times, you know, we can go through many situations. It's how we come back from it as well. You can go up that ladder of emotions with one single comment or an email. It's how you bring yourself back down to that and reset, but also self-recognizing it as well. You know, right, okay, I maybe need to step out of a situation because that's not right for my team, you know, and then maybe come back to it. So yeah, absolutely, it's self-managing your own moods and emotions, but very much recognizing in your team, but also I suppose those hidden skills where, right, okay, they're maybe struggling, they need some help. I don't need to wait to someone to come and tell me that. I should be able to recognise that as a leader as well. You know, so it brings in a whole volume of skills that probably you always took for granted as, you know, being the lead of the team, and never actually labelled it as leadership. You know, and then suddenly, right, okay, yeah, I am practicing that, but I need to practice it more. I don't need to just do it for today, I need to do it for tomorrow next month, next year, and that builds me stronger as a leader. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That practice thing over a period of time relates to what we think our programme is about, which is a journey that I guess continues for the 9 months of the programme, but then way beyond it, we hope, and that's I think what we're hearing from you there. So interesting to hear the reflections on it. Your reflections, Michael, are from a little bit further away, because in your case it was 3 years ago, but I dare say you've got your own view on it.
I think as a leader, it's a bit like sound waves. I know that sounds maybe an alternative viewpoint on it when it comes to mood, but when as a leader you need to kind of have a more smooth profile of the wave. And yes, there's always a place for emotion. You don't want to just be this person that is completely flat the whole time, but you need to smooth emotions out and not be quite as spiky. I don't know if it's oscillation or whatever the term might be. But people look to you ultimately for reassurance as a leader, so you need to make sure that those waves are nice and calm. A lesson I learned a long time ago through university was calm heads always prevail, and it doesn't matter what situation it's in, a calm head, regardless if it's a leader, a team, will always be better at creating a plan to address situations than those that are impacted significantly by emotion, because emotion then plays with all sorts of stressors in the body, which then just impacts the ability to think a bit more logically. So it's about anchoring people back down into that logical purpose, and ultimately that's kind of how I always view it, of it's trying to stay calm and trying to anchor everyone on the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, to try and smooth out those emotions as best as possible, because purpose is always what people should look to fulfill outside of individual wins and losses or situations of a business. That might be for Michelle trying to say we are trying to reach this safety goal by the end of the year, and there'll be some bumps along the road. Of course there will be. That's just life, but we'll always remember what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day.
Purpose, what a word. You know, there's something deeply ingrained around successful leadership when you have the word purpose present in the conversation with your people. What's this all about? Why are we doing it? Irrespective of the bumps in the road, or in your case, the storms on the sea. Anyone watching this video will be intrigued to know that North Star Shipping puts people into one of the roughest seas on earth. It can be very, very wild in the North Sea, and you've got dozens of ships out at sea all the time, providing safety, recovery and vigilance for people in the offshore industries, whether they be wind power or oil and gas. But they're in dangerous situations, and we go back to the situation where Michael spoke of good leadership and having a calm head. You know, calm in the storm is literally required at North Star Shipping, and it's very important to have a calm head when things are tough. Well, my goodness, your business, you really know about that there, because things are tough throughout the winter with really bad weather, not just in the winter, of course. But that's interesting perspective to hear. And I guess what I'm trying to do here is tease out a few comments around leadership in general and the challenges that you in particular have faced with them. I would also like to look a little bit more about the journey that you took through the Actif4 Leadership Programme from your own perspective. Obviously you're different individuals, different roles in the same organisation in your case, but your journeys were different. And maybe a couple of reflective points from you about what that journey was like for you over those 9 months, and maybe after that we'll come on to what advice would you give to people who are maybe thinking of coming on a programme like this. But let's just start with a little bit of an insight to the journey that you remember going through and what it was like for you. And take that question as you wish. It was your journey, so describe it as ever you wish.
Yeah, it was actually a very fulfilling journey for me at the end of the day. It solidified becoming that manager into a leader. What I did enjoy about it was the collaboration with other people who were in similar roles to me, whether they were directors or it was sitting in that room and almost brain dumping. All our challenges, you know, what is our showstoppers, where do we get our frustrations, and then teasing that back again. And when I look back to like day one, and then implementing all the changes throughout my program and saying, actually, yeah, I do this naturally. I need to be doing more of it, and and then going back along with your colleagues as well, that was on the same course, and saying, how did you get on? Great. What I would have maybe done on one hand 6 months ago, I might have changed that in a slightly different mindset, to get a different result from. So for me, absolutely, it was a very worthwhile journey. That has probably taken me even a year. I'm only a year down the line, but you either use it or lose it, and take advantage of the full program so that it does set you up on your journey for your future career.
Yeah, thank you. The use it or lose it piece, you won't and don't have to use it all, but some of it will have stuck over a period of time. Some of it will grow a bit more over a period of time. But what has stuck with you over that period? That you didn't lose it, you took it, you used it, and you're finding it useful.
For me, it was probably more about the time management piece, and I don't have to be the be all and end all. I don't need to be micromanaging. I don't need to be in control of everything. One of the biggest probably conclusions out of it is allowing the team, and what is lovely to see is they've actually got leadership now within themselves. And that's probably allowing, what has grown in me is allowing them to be more empowered through that as well, by me just saying, right, okay, you guys have got this, through direction or whatever, because we're all working to the same end goal, rather than, right, okay, what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow. We're planning. A lot more feedback and collaboration between us as a team, so that we're doing it together. Not everything can come from one brain, and that's what I think that's what flipped it for me in the leadership program. That is, I don't have to make all the decisions and the challenges. The team can do that as well, and that was my personal growth between being a manager and a leader. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I saw some of that in action just a few days ago, because by nice coincidence I was, as I think you know, on one of your vessels in the port of Aberdeen. And Michelle, it was one of your team, one of your senior advisors, who turned up and spent the afternoon taking me and my colleague around the Grampian Dawn, and put a lot of effort and time and energy into leading us through an education that afternoon. And he was truly excellent, someone that came across as being empowered to take the lead in his area. So I actually saw what you're describing in action 3 days ago, so something's working there.
Yeah, and he's only been with the company a year.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's lovely to hear. Thank you. Genuinely appreciate that. Yeah.
Extremely impressive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there must be something in there about a leader has to create a setting in which their team can flourish.
Yes.
Well, there was a gentleman flourishing on Friday, and both myself and my colleague Jen Jenkins, we absolutely witnessed that in action. Very good. Very good. So, but that's enough about him, because he's not on this call. Michael, you're on it, so your reflections a few years down the line on the journey that you took through the programme, and maybe what you're finding still sticks with you 3 years later.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things I thought from the programme was, I always go back to life as like a cobbled together routine, and a structure of different routines that you put into place, and that's just tend to what you rely upon. One of the big proactive steps that I probably learned and took from the programme was adding the part of the routine where you look at yourself and be quite reflective. So instead of just going from, I need to accomplish these tasks, then do this, then do this, then do this, it was taking the time to actually do a bit of self-reflection and evaluation, and then also put yourself in the shoes of others. So in terms of how we think we're perceived through the programme, actually put yourself in the shoes of someone that works as part of your team, someone that's external, someone that's a client, someone that's potentially your boss, and then just try and view that in terms of well, how do the way that I act and how do the way that I behave impact that person, and what can I do to foster quite a positive and collaborative culture with all those different stakeholders. And it's a bit more about being a chameleon in certain respects, because not the same approach doesn't work for everyone in every different group. So it's about having that time to be in touch with your emotions, as we've kind of already spoken about, but also reflect upon, well, where did I actually impact these situations and conversations, and was that the right way to do things, and how can I change that to go forward, be more collaborative, and I suppose be a better leader just in general. I know that sounds a bit wishy-washy, be a better leader, but just maybe have a better and bigger impact.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And you were mentioning delegation earlier on, and I'm trying to remember the exact phrase, because delegation is quite a common thing that we look at on our programme, but you went a little bit beyond that, and it was around the reflective piece, because you went, I think it was into delegation with consideration or something like that. You went a little bit deeper, and where that seemed to me to be coming from was, it's not just this thing called delegation, it's appropriate, spot on delegation that's right for purpose with the people that I'm dealing with here from my team or from other teams. And I think maybe something that should have stood you well was the fact that you went deeper into that than perhaps some people maybe just being a bit superficial. You didn't, you went deep into it. I don't know if that has served you well some years later, because of course delegation,
For sure.
There are opportunities every day for that, aren't there?
Yeah, I think that tapping into that consideration element has been so helpful in terms of bringing new people into the team and helping them to develop. I think onboarding is such a key part to businesses these days, and that first year where you can really impact people and set them up for success is about that considered delegation of, yes, I want you to grow and develop, but I also realise that this may be about your comfort zone. How can I make that a bit more of your comfort zone and delegate things that help you succeed and breed confidence to then take on new tasks? And confidence can then just help develop instead of, well, sometimes you can see people come in, get a bit demotivated because there's certain tasks that are a bit challenging. Actually enabling through success and confidence in that first 6 to 12 months can be really powerful in my view.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. I'm just conscious that I said at the start of this piece that I'd ask you to have a little think about any advice you might pass on. A wee bit of context for that. Both of you know, because you've been through the programme, that it's quite rigorous. You know, we ask a lot of you, but we try to ask a lot of you that is relevant to your journey and to your organisation. But going through that relatively rigorous journey that it asks a lot of you, you'll learn a few things that you would maybe want to pass on to others who are thinking, how do I tackle that? Or what would I need to know before I get started? So any advice, words of wisdom from either of you to people who might watch something like this and think, do I or do I not want to go for a programme like this?
I think you have to be honest with yourself as well, and open your mind up to, the actual programme as a whole, and not just pick out the bits that maybe are within your comfort zone, because that would be so easy to do, but nothing will change at the end of it. So you do have to push it out with your own comfort zone as well. And also plan. 9 months of a programme seems a long time, but when you're doing that programme at the end of it, it comes along quick. So you do need to be working through that as well. It's not just something, that you can turn up and just say, yep, okay, I've got all the tools in the bag and off I go. It is a dedication, and you need to be committed to it. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. We wouldn't want people who are not committed to feel that they should do it. We would want people to feel they want to do it, and commitment is a key word and all that. Thank you very much, Michelle. Michael, any thoughts from your perspective? Any advice you would pass on?
Stay curious. First and foremost, I think that will always serve you well in terms of staying curious, and you should always be curious about yourself. And I think particularly there's a lot of corporate theory at the minute about learner's mindset, and this is the perfect opportunity for that learner's mindset. And it's not just about learning about an industry or a business line, it's about learning about yourself. And that focused time to be reflective about yourself is actually quite powerful. And as much as everyone says that they're going to be able to do it without a programme, it's the same as sometimes having a coach in a sporting element of someone there to help hold you accountable will always get more out of you than just doing it in your own time as and when you can. Life comes at you fast and you'll very much get distracted, whilst having someone to keep you accountable really can make the difference.
Yeah, thank you. We're nearly there. I've taken quite a lot of your time, and I much appreciate your openness and just looking into a slightly broader thing, because I find it inspiring to hear what you've got to say. I mean, that might be obvious because it's nice to hear people with stories to tell that have been useful to them and meaningful to them, where we've had a role to play. That's great. I find it inspiring that you can play it back as something that you have found useful. But I also find it inspiring that people in positions like yours can see it through over difficult times, whether or not you've been in a programme like ours, because I know it's a tough thing being in the lead in businesses these days, through all the peaks and troughs that they experience. But enough about what inspires me. There are other things that inspire me, but the two of you certainly inspire me. What inspires you in life in general, just as a human as well as an individual leader? Just a slightly off the wall question, because I think it matters. What inspires you? Sorry to catch you out, because I don't think you'd expect me to be asking that.
For me, it's challenges. Right, okay, we've got a challenge, it's not a problem. It's like, right, okay, what's the challenge? Where are we going with this? Getting everybody around us, and at the end of it, looking back and saying, look, it was easy after all. Or, yep, we had a couple of bumps in the road, but we made it. That's what inspires me as being a manager, that you take everyone with you on that journey. And that's why we get up every day. Right, okay, they're not necessarily challenges, they're just bumps in the road. As Michael said, and it's right, okay, we do this together. That's what inspires me, and that's what gets me out of bed every day. And right, okay, what difference can we make on a daily basis? It doesn't have to be massive, moving mountains. It's just those small little changes every day to turn a dial, and that's why we do it.
How powerful is that? I think a lot of people, things like innovation, they're looking for the big innovation to make all the difference. And well, that might come along tomorrow, but it probably won't. But something small can come along any day. And if we're in the search for that and we aggregate those, then you get something special. No, I agree. Thank you. And there's so much about team in that. It's nice to be inspired by people around you rather than just the exploits of self. Good on you. Thank you. Michael, what inspires you?
I'm a bit of a Lego guy, so I enjoy building things, and I think trying to build something special is what I always try and come back to. I think we're in the midst of doing that right now, which is fantastic, and it's a great motivator. I always go back to, you can always build a spaceship, but let's build the Millennium Falcon. And that's a very pop culture reference, and you can tell what I was brought up in. But that's the type of thing that kind of really gets me up and motivated. It's about building something, not just for me, but for everyone. And that might be across different stakeholder groups, but mainly for the people at North Star, across every section of the business. That's what kind of really drives me.
Well, thank you. And you can authentically say that, both of you in this case, because you do work in a business that is building something special. There are people who will watch this who will think, well, maybe there's a limit to what we can achieve. Well, if you look at what North Star Shipping is doing, it is in the lead on the transition in energy from hydrocarbons into renewables, and it is proving that along the way and making great strides when lots of other companies are looking at it thinking, I wish we could do that. Well, it's, you should be inspired by the fact that you are actually creating something special in that business, and it's a joy to work with you, so thank you very much. Have you any questions for me? I've asked all the questions. That's going a bit off piste. You can ask me a couple of questions if you want, and then we'll draw it to a close.
Turn the mirror back at you, Ian. What would you recommend for new candidates?
Oh, well, that's a good question, because I guess I've taken, the thick end of 40 people through this programme now, and I think I would recommend what I heard from Michelle. It's around commitment. Have a good plan for those 9 months. Treat it as something that you're really going to get into and get deep into, because if you do, you'll get more from it. I've learned that those who think they will get round to it, well, we will get them round to it as coaches, but it's far, far better when they get themselves round to it from the start and keep at it and build a journey, and as you said, Michael, therefore build something special. Because what's the point in just getting through a programme when you can actually really get through a programme with gusto? And the thing that really inspires me from the people who have embraced our programme, and both of you have, is that they can really get through it with gusto and then find something meaningful for the future. That is so much better than just getting through it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Michael.
Perfect.
So both, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for the input and the thought that you put into it. And anyone that's watching this, thanks very much, and we'll see you again sometime.